from the historic Ham Building in St. Paul, it's the Haberdasher's Couch. I'm Kendrick, inviting you to the show, starring Heimie and featuring Todd Walker, also featuring Amye Scharlau. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Heimie.
Welcome to another show of the Haberdasher's Couch, where you don't have to pay somebody to listen to you. And I tell you what, Keith is here again, and the topic he has chosen today, ladies and gentlemen, is how to be a gentleman. Or what does it mean to be a gentleman? In the day of e-commerce, Keith, right? We don't reckon back to the time when a tailor was a tailor, and a bread maker was a bread maker, and a barber was a barber, right? But we're here to tell you there's hope. There's hope in being a gentleman. Keith?
Wow, that was really impressive.
A good tailor will encourage conversation.
I like that.
And that's why people always say, I got my guy. Right? And you brought up we talk every morning about what we think is important. And you brought up the subject of what it means to connect, what it means to talk, what it means to be a gentleman. Mm-hmm. Give me your lowdown. Give me the skinny.
What you mean, like, in terms
What's your
of
perspective? Yeah.
My perspective of it?
Yeah.
Well, I think it doesn't change, but I think each individual, but for me it is in individual that it's in the face of adversity, right? In face of adversity. Right. It's self-explanatory. Gentle, right? There's a gentleness in how we conduct ourselves when things are not always going our way. Opening a door and things of that nature and being of service is great. But when no one's around, and we're feeling a little pressured. Right. We're feeling some things are not necessarily, whether at work, whether at home, whether we're tired. So how consistent we are at still thinking and behaving and acting. We're human.
So the younger generation, what they're saying is these younger men are trying to wrestle with responsibility and commitment. Because responsibility and commitment nowadays, we are so distracted by other things. Everything seems temporary, right? But responsibility and commitment is really an act of a gentleman, right? To be responsible in your work and be committed to your relationships.
And it is into our society, because I think in our world, or again, people can say you can dress a certain way and look, he looks like a gentleman, right? Mm-hmm. So I think grooming, I think visual presentation, behavior, but I think those things are learned. We can learn those things, and we learn things about ourselves, because life has there's a journey that we go through, right? And not all of us are in environments sometimes where that's fostered.
I think one thing that you've taught me, Keith, in general, just in conversation with you, is you're such a good listener, and it's called paying attention. So if we just set down our cell phones for a minute and respect each other and pay attention, just paying attention.
Well, I pray daily on that, because sometimes I really
hopefully for me.
Because there's times you want to think before you speak, right? And I don't ever want to say things to particularly hurt and offend people that I care about and love, because I feel some way about that afterwards. Don't be quick to anger, right? Because I like that. There are times that happens, and if it's not in you, and you're when you leave that situation, and years and moments later, you feel you feel really bad about it. Having some remorse about things is also part of what I think being a gentleman. There's some remorseful behavior.
Somebody told me to walk in love. I'm
100%.
like, wow, walk in love. Now there's a concept.
Yeah, because again, we
instead of being angry, upset, walk.
But
that's hard to do.
We're human, and there are times that that can happen, right? Because life happens, right? And so no one's perfect, right? And so how do we learn from that, and how do we react? How do we react to to those situations when we feel that way?
So
how do we react to other people? Because I think being a gentleman is not it's not just for self.
Right.
It's usually, in my opinion, when you are amongst your peers or when you're amongst other people. Because, you know, when we're by ourselves, I think that's when the practice begins. Because we have to love ourselves first. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. We have to learn to love ourselves. And then there's some behaviors that we exhibit, and we're forgiving. We're a little bit more forgiving.
Okay, so would you say that ego is a fine balance between not bragging but having self-confidence? Right, because nobody likes a bragger. Well,
again, this is how someone says that, right? I think we're in a country where, you know, the freedom of speech is one of the things that we preach. So someone can, for instance, I'm proud of you. So if you say you're proud of yourself, that even makes me even more
And
happy.
did you know that complimenting is part of being a gentleman too?
That's exactly where we're going with this. And I think that is, so if someone can compliment themselves, and I think it's the tone on which we speak, right? It's the tone in which we set that says, you know, I did do a great job. I am committed to being a great person. And so others might take that as being bragging.
And what you always warn me on is never to talk politics. If you're going to talk politics, listen 70% of the time and open your mouth. And open your mouth 30% of the time.
Again, and that's something that
which is hard for me.
Well, it's only because I don't know a lot about politics, but I think when we're in certain environments, right, and things that I see it might throw us off a little, then those things I think we should put those aside when we're in environments that are important to us, right? So I think there's things that are not beneficial to us at that time. You know, it's not that if my right hand or left hand bothers me, I'm going to cut it off just because it bothers me. I'll figure out what's wrong with it and fix it. So I think part of being a gentleman is also understanding what we're capable of in good and bad situations, and going, no, you know, I didn't like the way I behaved, so let me fix it. So it's not that I ever say to you that, you know, I would never tell you to not do anything, because part of our relationship is I respect the fact that you are very transparent, and I think that is also a gentleman. You know, and so. But
I try to speak the truth or find the truth.
But then also, as I said, as your older brother, if anything that I see is affecting you a certain way, and I don't think it's negative, I mean, in a positive way, you know, then I said, Anthony, you know, let's. So I think all of those things, being having empathy,
I like that.
Is part
having
of
empathy.
having it as well.
Just one more note on being a gentleman. It's important to travel, isn't it? To see the world, to experience the world, to read books, to look at art, to write some poetry, to listen to music. Travel gives us a perspective.
Yeah, and I think I said that is being cultured, right? So because you're finding out about other cultures, and then you'll find some common ground. I don't think there's ever a time you can go to certain places and don't find common ground. So I think being a gentleman and being moving a certain way allows you to do that. Now that still, as we are able to defend ourselves if we have to, but and not to say a person that is able to do that is not a gentleman. But again, I think there's a person that is transparent. But I think the terminology is a visual, you know, how someone dresses and how someone presents themselves.
Dressing very important.
But are we really who we portray ourselves as? And I think it's all encompassing, right? I said so part of what we talk about is dressing the man. So if we dress the man to be the gentleman, so we're dressing a certain way. That says we should behave, just try to behave accordingly, right? Or try and act accordingly, because I think the word behave sometimes constitutes just really compromising yourself to a certain degree. But that's a Bahamian terminology. You know, behave yourself. You know, But it's so. I think as we dress, right, and we should move move in that direction.
Absolutely.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's someone that doesn't have and I'm not speaking of a suit. But I think there are ways that and things that we know through travel.
And I always say that tomorrow, every day that you wake up, you can always improve yourself. You don't have to worry about it happening all at once, but just one step at a time.
Yeah.
And Keith, thanks for being a gentleman, and we'll see you next week.
Hey everybody, it's Todd About Town, Todd Walker, with entertainment, travel, and more. Hey Todd, what's new?
And here you are, back in the Twin Cities, talking auto show.
Yeah, so the first thing is, of course, this is the time of year, the spring, and it is the Twin Cities Auto Show. That happens every year at the Minneapolis Convention Center. It's just a fun place to go to see what's new, then look at some of the classics. They have like an area that they have, like they bring in the Batmobile, they bring in the Scooby-Doo mobile. It's just a really, really good time to look at some of the high-end cars and some of the new electric cars. It's a great atmosphere, plus they do a lot of little events. Yep, it's great.
Get on your feet.
Yes, this
Feel
is
the
the
beat.
Gloria Estevan's story with her husband Emilio, and this happens at the Ordway, and it only runs through April 7th. And it's their whole story combined with a lot of great music as well.
Okay, cool. And then one of my favorite singers, probably male singers, that Chris Stapleton. What a voice.
And so he's going to be at the U.S. Bank Stadium. He'll be there Saturday, April 6th. And so that should be a great show. So a lot of these things are, winding up on Saturday and Sunday.
He's lowered the ticket prices from ranging from $54 to $184.
Yeah,
Thanks, Chris.
Not a cheap event to go to.
They aren't anymore.
I know.
Between that and parking, okay.
I know.
Cool.
And then down at the Orpheum,
I saw that on the marquee the other night.
Disney's Lion King. I saw it the first time it was through here because they actually staged the show here at the Orpheum, and now it is back for this run, and the run is a long run. It runs through April 28th.
Over 100 million people have seen this show.
Yeah,
so
it's
far.
one of the highest attended shows that Disney has ever done, and one of the highest Broadway shows.
I saw it, and it's awesome. So.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Minnesota Twins.
And spring is in the air, so this is at Target Field. This is the opening weekend. They have games this Saturday and Sunday at 1:10. They're playing the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it'll be fun.
Thanks for sharing, and thanks for caring, Todd.
Of course.
We'll see you next week.
Hello, this is Amye the Hypnotist here at beautiful Heimie's Haberdashery, and this is Coffee Talk. Next week, an amazing thing is happening across the world. We are having a full eclipse. And like so many other people, I am heading out with my best friend to go and see it at its totality. What I find heartening and wonderful about this is you have all of these hundreds and thousands of people that are wanting to experience the joy and awe of nature. They want to experience it for themselves, not just from behind their phone. And humans love to experience awe and wonder. It makes us feel like we're a part of something bigger, something really special and magical. It gives us a sense of oneness with other humans. Some people, when they experience the eclipse, find it to be the most beautiful experience of their lives and will even start to cry. Now, how does this affect our animal friends? Well, because the temperature drops and the sky gets dark, they start to think that it's night. So crickets starts to chirp, the bats come out, and cows will even go back to the barn in order to be milked. Now, when the sun comes back, they all go back to normal. The animals go back to their lives. Humans go back to theirs. But we will have experienced something truly magical together. And that, my friends, is Coffee Talk.